If you are listening to this episode, you're in the thick of BFCM sale probably. I think you're staring down the barrel of Thanksgiving and the Cyber 5 weekend. So this episode will be helpful.
I think we spent like almost $1 million, but I'm not comfortable enough to go like, all right, lowest cost $1 million, let's just set it and forget it. Like, I don't have the balls for that. So I really like this to capture more of the potential upside, be aggressive, but hopefully you're not spending if performance isn't there. So I'm a fan. It works for us.
The big change we're making is like having our data warehouse just pull those updates quicker so we can see how we're pacing more granularly with all of our key metrics.
One of our highest ROAS campaigns on an MTA basis was a view content optimized campaign. I'm like, okay, yeah, there's something super weird here.
Hey, could we spend $1 million less on Black Friday and still hit our revenue targets? I think the answer was no. Like, based on the cost per incremental we saw, that spend is actually very incremental during those actual peak moments.
Do you guys end up having dreams about marketing during Q4?
All right, we're back. If you are listening to this episode, you're in the thick of BFCM sale probably. I think you're staring down the barrel of, I think, Thanksgiving and the Cyber 5 weekend. So if you're listening to this, I hope things are going well. And if they're not going as well, hopefully this episode will be helpful. I want to call out a few things. One, this is the first appearance of the Marketing Operators mug.
How did you get your hands on that?
Very thoughtful gift for my birthday in the back end of August from London, from the Hexclad team. Got me a couple of Marketing Operators mugs. I finally brought it to the office, so I now I have it here, and I'll be using it every episode. So,
well, hint for Aaron Orndorff. We've got Christmas coming
exactly. Exactly. And this is a pretty inexpensive, pretty high impact gift.
Yeah, so, for sure.
So, all right, Aaron. Wink, wink. So we got the Marketing Operators mug. Connor, you're slowly adding more things to your background. I see we have another bookshelf.
Mm-hmm.
I see we have a chair.
Second bookshelf.
Second bookshelf chair. I see some things on the. It looks like Amazon's been there. So I like the slow add of things. Like, it's getting more and more lively in the background. So we're leveling up both of our setups. Cody, I don't know if you have any personal space level ups that you need to talk about today.
No, I need to talk about Connor's hoodie. That I'm impressed. Did you buy that, or
I bought it? Yeah, no, dude, I bought it.
Those are sick. I actually think that's cool.
Dude, the only problem is the checkout's just so fast and seamless. I hadn't realized that I clicked the wrong size. So this is an extra small. So I got like very little. I got very little arm.
That one click checkout got you.
Yeah, 100%.
I just want to say again, like, in case anybody is listening, we mentioned it last time. Nobody sent me merch. If you send merch and we like it, we will wear it on the pod. Clearly.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely.
Got my Tubi media hat on today. Tubi makes a great hat. We love Tubi, great partner of Hexclad. So case in point. I also have the Shopify sweatshirt, and it's also very awesome. Although, I don't even know where to buy them, because I also bought it, but I don't even know, like, where do you buy Shopify's physical product merch? It's not at Shopify.com.
Yeah, it's like Shopify.supply or something, but then they do it in drop. So like, I don't think this hoodie is for sale anymore.
Oh, here it is. Shopify.supply. Okay. Oh, all right. This is a sick website.
Dude, it's insane. Yeah. Their last drop was like really, really kind of crazy built out.
Dang, this is cool. Like, they got the whole, like, what do you call that? The parallax? Is that what that is? When you're like scrolling, and I don't know. They got some good stuff right now. They got some t-shirts. They got some crew necks. Like,
I think Sean posted like the sweater. They had some cool sweaters too.
He got the sweater. Yeah.
At Harley, Cody, you heard Cody. You heard Cody right away. Like, well, we'd love to get some.
Just this shameless ask for gifts.
I am so shameless about it. I have no problem begging for free merch.
So I think, Connor, you wearing the Shopify sweatshirt right now means one of two things. It either means the Ridge sale is off to a banging start, or it means you're trying to will some more juice into it. So which end of the spectrum are you on right now?
We're happy with the sale so far.
Good.
Cautiously happy. Like, you guys will appreciate this. Listeners will appreciate this. But we launched our sale 5 days early. I've brought this up before. Last year we launched on the 12th. This year we launched on the 6th. So there's a really interesting question around, like, well, what do you even comp? We gave ourselves a whole additional weekend. We launched it later in the week. We launched it on a Thursday instead of a Tuesday. We gave ourselves a whole extra weekend. So what we ended up looking at was basically the 7th, 8th, 9th was Friday, Saturday, Sunday. We comped that to the 14th, 15th, 16th last year, something like that. We comped a much later week, basically a full week later, and we grew slightly and we did it more efficiently, which I feel really good about. The fact that we are that much earlier in November and we are slightly growing is awesome. And then if you look at the unfair comp where we say, hey, we're on sale now, we weren't on sale last year, we're like absolutely ripping year over year. So, so it feels good.
That's great. Yeah, we're seeing something similar with our newness this year. Like, I'm really happy we decided to, like, our whole launch strategy was launch the new roasting set at the end of October. We wanted to have that product have its moment, then launch the rest of the Thanksgiving products on the 7th. And like our year over year growth rates have really bumped up ever since we launched that early sale. And it's not like they're pretty niche products. Like, it's the roasting pans and like some niche cutting boards and like carving and tuning forks. But that's been it's been a good like addition to this year. Without like do you guys have your whole entire sale right now? Because like ours is
full
obviously just like
out.
Full sales rolled out. So still pretty different. But yeah, I think this is something we'll continue to do, is like let people get their Thanksgiving products as early as they want, so they can just like feel good about that. Cody, what about you guys? How are the holiday kits looking?
They're good. They're good. October was like great. We actually sold out of our October kit on the day of holiday, so couldn't have timed it better. Maybe one day earlier if I'm being picky, but I'll take it. And then it's good. Through the first 5 days, we're up like 32% on the collection compared to last year. So good, but we're definitely in like a waiting period. So we're below expectations overall, but haven't launched sale yet. So it's our first sale. I think we forecasted it pretty conservatively. So hoping it's a good ride.
Do you guys have a pulse on how other people are feeling about Black Friday so far? I know it's really early and we mostly want to focus on like week of Cyber 5. But I keep seeing comments on Twitter specifically that like things look soft year over year.
I feel like that's what I've seen. And I do think they are. Like, I do think they are from data I've seen. Even when your reps, from different channels start a conversation with like economic data of like not forecasting really growth for the sector and stuff, like, that's a sign. They probably are normally trying to upsell things and try to build optimism to get you to spend more. So when they start with that, it's like it's definitely a telling sign. I think I always feel like there's some like self-serving bias where like usually people on Twitter are either very positive or very negative, and then in like group chats and Slacks it's usually like very negative. But I'm definitely seeing that more. Seeing in some chats with 9-figure brands a lot of early softness compared to prior year.
But look, government's back open. Stimulus checks are rolling out.
Is this going to be the perfect timing for every e-commerce brand in the universe, or in the US at least? Can you imagine if like November 15th, like everyone gets a $2,000 check? Like every e-com brand in the US is going to absolutely pump.
Yeah. We'll see what happens. Scott Besant's been like back and forth on what exactly is happening. But yeah, government back open, stimulus checks maybe getting printed. And then, the McRib is back, which is correlated with strong economic gains.
McRib's back?
The McRib is back.
Since when?
Like the 11th, yesterday.
Oh my God, I just missed it. I had a fat McDonald's breakfast last week and I got my first ski day in. Stopped at McDonald's on the way out to the resort. And man, if I would have known the McRib was there, I would have crushed a McRib at 11 a.m. No
Hilarious.
Doubt. Wow. All right. That's good to know. Cool. Well, let's get into it. We got some fun stuff today. Before we do that, I want to thank the sponsors: Motion, Prescient AI, Rich Panel, Afterstyle, and House.
Hey, Connor, I don't know if you know this, but there's a lot of talk about creative diversity right now on all platforms. We've been talking about it a lot. Andromeda, I don't know if you heard about that. It's apparently a Greek legend, a Greek myth. but I believe it is something that Meta has done that obviously I'm kidding, but everybody's talking about creative diversity. Everybody's talking about Andromeda and how the game has changed. We are all focused on it. I think there's not a D2C operator who does not know it at this point and how important it is. And being able to test, measure, do creative diversity, get a high volume of diverse assets is really the name of the game. And I'm super excited because Motion has just rolled out AI tagging, which helps to simplify it. As our volumes go and diversity is going up, we have more different types of styles. I know you're a big naming convention guy. I know that you think they're the heart and soul of D2C brand, but another casualty of the AI era, Motion now has AI tagging, which simplifies all of your reporting, automatically tags stuff, just makes it easier to splice data. I know you were just saying, actually, you sent it to your team. I sent it to my team. What are your thoughts on AI tagging so far?
Yeah, no, totally. And Motion's premier sponsor, we're supposed to say nice things, but legitimately, as soon as I got the video from them, because we got early access, sent it right to my team. I'm like, this is the way to go. It makes the comparative analytics just so much simpler. I was just looking at it this morning, bucketing between UGC, lifestyle photo with text, product photo with text, all these different breakdowns that we used to have to labor over to tag and automate and then break down the reports by those dimensions. It's all kind of working out of the box. So, you got it totally right. We were talking about creative diversity all the time. Producing that, I think, is a big challenge for brands right now. Analyzing that, just as big of an issue. And Motion's AI tagging system is a great solution for it. So if you want to check it out, go to motionapp.com and let them know that the marketing operator sent you.
All right, let's get into it. So we're talking about like intraday pacing today. I think the episode prior, we talked about how we go about setting our daily pace. Now we're going a little bit more granular and talking about the intraday pace. It's pretty easy with revenue, right? Like Amazon and Shopify have pretty, especially Shopify, but even Amazon has pretty solid hour over hour pacing. And like, you can tell like how close you're going to get to your total daily target for the day just by following those hour over hour trends. So like, I don't know if you guys have anything different that you're doing when it comes to the revenue pacing, but it's very simple. We're just like keeping tabs on how we're trending hour over hour and trying to understand like, hey, based on our current pace and based on any like how we expect this to kind of like tail off towards the end of the day, like we think we'll come in plus or minus this against our total revenue target for the day. Like, and then we're also using that, and we'll get into like the hourly ad spend pacing. We're then also using that to kind of calculate like, hey, how are we seeing like any massive efficiency bumps or drops in any specific hour? Same with CAC. But are you guys doing like, I think we should spend most of the time on the ad spend, but like Connor, maybe you can start off like with the revenue. Are you doing anything other than what I just talked about in terms of like the hourly tracking?
No, that's exactly, yeah. It's actually, I mean, from like a Google Sheets formula perspective, it's the exact same as we do on a daily basis, but instead we're just doing it for and we'll start the hourly pacing on Wednesday, I think. We also started pulling that up. I think one year we even started earlier, and that was like more work. The juice was not worth the squeeze if we were starting like Sunday before Black Friday or whatever. So we started a couple days early. It ends up being like 96 hours of hourly pacing. And then we're looking at the accrual, right? So you can understand, hey, 6 a.m. morning of Black Friday, we were up or down year over year on a revenue basis. And then depending on when your emails or SMSs are landing or how ads are performing or what your channel strategy is, like you can see differences. Like you could be down 6 a.m. and up 7 a.m. So then we're looking at it on an accrual basis where you'd say, so far from midnight through 10 a.m., PST in this case, we are up 5% year over year. We're spending 2% more, something like that. So those are really the only two ways that we're looking at it.
That is cool. Okay. So so we don't have like a spreadsheet we're looking at. We're just kind of like gut checking it, pulse checking it, but you're actually pulling it into a sheet and you're looking year over year by the hour.
Yeah, year over year by the hour, and then we're adding up all those hours up until that point to say this far through the day versus this far through the day last year. This is where we sit with revenue and spend, and then we're doing that across all of our different markets as well.
That is awesome. I freaking love that. We might have to do a working session with the Ridge and Hexclad team to see how you're building that out, because that's pretty dialed. I love that. Cody, what about you? Are you doing anything like that, or what's your kind of like pulse check on the hourly revenue pace?
We have a dashboard that updates pretty much instantaneously. So we used to do it where we would have like a spreadsheet before that, and like every hour we'd put in, our pacing. So we're not really looking like hourly pacing, like this is how much we spent this hour and this is our revenue this hour. It's more of like, here's how we're pacing for the day.
Yeah.
And then we'll compare that to comps. But honestly, going back a second, like how do you guys set your budgets to begin with? Because what we do, we have our forecast, we have our, our spend, our MER for each day. But obviously it is a guess, especially like you don't know how it's going to perform, especially if you change something, right? Like this is our first ever sale. Connor mentioned earlier, like they moved their sale earlier. Like you can't, if you used to launch on Black Friday, now you're launching a week earlier. Like your first day is not going to be equivalent to the first day, but also your Black Friday is not going to be. So hopefully that's taken into account for your forecast. What we do is we'll take that, we'll look at historicals when we forecast, we'll look at subjective changes based on what we think will happen, and then depending on how we're pacing for that month and how we'll take a bet on how aggressive we want to be. So we'll say, hey, like for holiday this past time, the launch before it did great. We crushed it. We thought we were doing a lot of the right things. We felt good about this collection launch. So we're like, all right, we're going to err on the side of being aggressive, based on our MER targets, based on our revenue targets. Like let's spend at least this much, and like let's get our daily budgets on all channels loaded in there to hit that. And we'd rather start high, go high, which are some pretty big bets, because they're going to be $1 million+ days. And then we'll just look at pacing in this dashboard every few hours, really. Honestly, it's actually probably refreshing every 5 minutes for us is what we're doing. But, and then we'll just make a call. But I think I'd rather overspend, hit it hard from the beginning, and then pull back. But how do you guys think about that or look at it?
Yeah. So this is a good transition. We should go into the ad spend stuff, because I think that's where this is where like the horror stories can happen. This is where you can get like, halfway through the day and you're like, wow, we just burnt, like we're 75% through our budget, or the opposite. Like we're 3/4 of the way through the day and we've only spent 30% of our budget. And we're also like definitely going to come in under our revenue target like that. So we are a few things we're doing. So first off, we use Northbeam. I think everyone here uses Northbeam. I'm pretty sure Northbeam updates every 15 minutes. So like we are getting very granular budget pacing on all of our core channels that directly integrate with Northbeam, which is like, I don't know, 70% of our budget maybe, or something around there. So like we are updating that very regularly to say, hey, like, and really looking at Meta as the core channel and saying like, hey, if we're going to spend, especially on like our Cyber 5 days, like we're going to spend 7 figures on Meta alone, and like mid 7 figures as a whole. Like we're really using Meta as the leading indicator to say like, hey, are we pacing well with Meta? Like, and it's kind of a gut check, right? You're like, all right, we're halfway through the day. Like, are we 40 to 50% of the way through our budget? Like that would seem to make sense. And then comparing that to revenue, it's like, all right, maybe if revenue is really pumping in those last few hours and we're also spending up on Meta, like that's fine. And just making sure we're not like blowing through budget, but our revenue is not trending in the same way. So we're doing those like, looking very granularly in Northbeam and updating that regularly. The other thing we're doing is we're like increasing the frequency of our data pulls with our data warehouse and just like data partner, Saras. So like usually they're like refreshing that data like a few times a day. We will, during this period of time, like basically from when we launch on Friday, start doing hourly pulls. So we'll also have that data getting pulled directly into our data warehouse, which that's even better because that's going to have all of our revenue data. That's going to have all of our CAC data. That's going to be probably the best spot for us to understand like, how are we pacing throughout the day right now and being able to update it regularly. So that's like the big, Northbeams are already like you can update it every 15 minutes. But that's the big change we're making is like having our data warehouse just pull those updates quicker so we can see how we're pacing more granularly with all of our key metrics. So those are like the big changes and how we're going about it. What about you guys?
Yeah, I'm on Cody's question around how are you setting budgets, because I do think this is an interesting one. I've talked about this before. It really depends on the type of brand, right? Like, let me ask you guys this. We just need ballpark numbers. Do you guys know how much higher MER will be on Black Friday versus the month?
Oh God. Not a ton, not like 2x.
So that means you're scaling budgets significantly on the day of Black Friday.
Yes. Depends how we spend into it.
Yeah, exactly. So that's my kind of thing. So deciding as a brand, do you want to err on the side of caution or on the side of being aggressive? It kind of depends on your MER targets. Like if you're already baking in aggressive projections, which Bridge has done, and I've said a number of times, I think there are absolutely times in the past where we've overspent on Black Friday, and I wish I could get some of that money back and have just taken a higher MER and more efficiency. We are going to err on the side of caution most likely this year, be more conservative, and then we'll scale up throughout the day. But if I'm a brand that typically is at a 6x MER on Friday, and I actually think that I can blow revenue projections out of the water, then I could totally imagine being more aggressive. But that's really, depending on your starting point from an MER perspective, I think can dictate how aggressive or how conservative you want to be, because it's extremely easy, to your point, Connor. If you're too aggressive early on, you'll just never make that back through the rest of the day. And you'll have misspent, a couple $100,000.
Yep. Yeah, definitely. And like, that's where, like, revisiting one of the things we talked about in the previous episode, like that ROAS lift KPI, like that's one of the things we're really leaning into to be more confident in spending up on that day. Cause we have, yes, Black Friday is our biggest revenue day, but we also need that spend to work for us throughout the rest of the year. And like, we know that spend on that day matures really well throughout the last 35 days of the year. So we're like, all right, we're gonna spend up here. We could spend half of what we spend. I don't know how much revenue we would miss and like make our MER look juicy, but we're probably also going to hurt ourselves in trying to hit our December revenue too. So it's like, what's that balance? So yeah, it's tricky though. It's like, it's a very imperfect science. You're just taking the best, most educated guess you possibly can.
Yeah. I mean, you're taking a bet either way. Right.
Mm-hmm.
And I think what's important is like Connor mentioned, like knowing where you want to bet for that moment in time for your brand. Like sometimes we'll be more aggressive and I'll tell my team, like, let's go. I'd rather miss on the side of being more aggressive, if we have to. And then other times it's like, hey, like, let's really focus on efficiency here. Like we're not after growth, we're after max profitability. Like let's be a little conservative. And it changes. It's not like we're always a brand that's going aggressive or vice versa. Like depends on how your month or your quarter is pacing, depends on how your growth is pacing, depends on like inventory as well. If you're at inventory, like definitely you should probably, take all the margin you can get.
Yeah.
But I think Connor Rowland, like you said, like it is so imperfect. Like it's a bet. We're making guesses and we're making like probabilistic bets. So I think empowering your team to say like, hey, like it's okay if you miss, like we don't have to get it perfect, but like we're aligned that we're gonna take this bet and we're gonna go this direction, either more aggressive or less aggressive. But I find it is easier to spend, especially knowing those ROAS lift metrics. I'd rather hit it hard early at the gate, knowing you get a longer lag there, right? You maximize any potential upside, right? Of hey, we're not holding ourselves back by spending too little, and then you can just spend less later if you're not as efficient, and hopefully you do get a ROAS lift, so it kind of compounds versus spending what I think a mistake we've made in the past is spending a little bit less, having more demand, trying to catch up. Now you're trying to like change budgets. It's much harder to increase them. Connor, you talk about a lot of getting that weighted down MER where you're not really spending super incrementally. Now your pacing for the second half of the day is so much higher in spend, and it's probably not the most efficient spend. Or your back half when your ROAS lift is lower. So that's my preference, is to start strong.
Lately, every marketer I talk to says the same thing. The pressure's on, budgets are tight, goals are higher than ever, and I have to prove what's working, not just report it. That's the new reality of marketing. You can't afford to rely on guesses or platform reported results. You need clear, unbiased, causal proof of what's actually driving growth. And that's exactly where House comes in. Incrementality testing is the scientific way to measure true impact. It is the most unbiased way to understand true impact, to see what's moving the needle and what's just noise, so you can reallocate spend based on fact, not faith. All of the marketing operators use House for their incrementality testing at Hexclad, Jones Road Beauty, and Ridge, and it's becoming a core part of the modern measurement stack. House helps you run real experiments across your channels so you can answer questions that actually matter, like which channels are truly driving incremental revenue and which are just taking credit? How much should I really be spending on Meta, Google, and YouTube? What's the halo effect of ads on Amazon or retail sales? And how should I structure my campaign so every dollar goes towards real, measurable impact? What sets House apart is the combination of unbiased, rigorous science and marketer-friendly design. The math under the hood is very complex, but the platform itself is very, very simple. You choose your question, you launch your test in minutes, and you get clear, actionable results you can actually use. Plus, every customer, every brand gets a dedicated measurement strategist. And I will tell you what, the house measurement strategist team is very dialed in. They are very strategic, helping you set these tests up in a way where you're going to get statistically significant results that are actionable. And ultimately, there's someone who has lived in the world of growth and they know how to translate data into strategy, interpret the results, and build a repeatable culture of experimentation across your team. In a world where every marketing dollar is under a microscope, you need to know what's real. Measure what matters with House by going to house.io/operators. That's HAUS.io/operators and start allocating your budget with confidence.
One thing I'm excited about, and I'd love your guys' take on, we're going to nail this down tomorrow, but we should be able to we're going to do a scale up test week for Cyber 5. So we'll do it. We're not going to do it for our main EDC business because that would be like too disruptive. So it's either going to be EDC in Canada or it's going to be rings in the US, which I think are both like good enough sizes that will get enough signal. And I'm hoping that we could basically leave this period and say, yeah, how incremental were those dollars through this week, and particularly on Black Friday? We scaled last year on Black Friday, we scaled up 70% day over day in terms of spend. I think it could be very possible that a more optimal scenario for us is to scale up 40% day over day. And then it's actually, we're just going to take a much higher MER, and those last few dollars spent are actually not nearly as profitable as they could be. So that's the plan. What do you guys think? Any feedback, or have you guys done anything similar in the past?
Just some questions. So this is Meta, or this is everywhere?
Oh, yeah, good question. For the sake of simplicity, we would just do Meta. And for EDC Canada and Rings US, it's like that's 75% of the budget.
We did this exact thing last year because to your like going back to what we just talked about the spend maturing well, we were trying to also validate like, hey, is the spend still incremental like
right
now, like in this moment and later on? And it really was. Like we saw in, oh my God, like some of the best cost per incremental orders we've seen. So like, we're not doing it this year because we have a few other tests, like more macro tests. I think I talked about like our YouTube and CTV scale up tests that we are running, and we're doing observation windows through, like we're actually ending the test tomorrow and then doing the observation window through the next 2 weeks. But we had the same thought last year because we're always trying to like, hey, could we spend $1 million less on Black Friday and still hit our revenue targets? And I think the answer was no, like based on the cost per incremental we saw, which was like some of the top we've ever seen. Like it's like that spend is actually very incremental during those actual peak moments. So I think it makes total sense that you're doing that. I think it's like really, really actionable for all of your sale periods. Like, do we spend up during sale periods? We answered yes, we should spend up pretty aggressively during sale periods.
Do you know what time period did you do it for last year?
Yeah, let me load up House real quick and pull it up. When are you running yours?
Like, so we have tests running up until the week of Black Friday. So we'll get those readouts, and then that will help us like set budgets for that week a little bit more scientifically. And then this test that I'm talking about now is like literally just the Cyber 5 days.
Yeah. So we didn't do it in Meta because we were like, it's a little risky. So we did it in YouTube and TikTok, and we ran both of them from the 27th through the 10th. So the 27th of November through the 10th of December. And like, yeah, I'm just looking at our cost per incremental orders, like in that performance chart, and these two tests, like by far, have the best CPIA, to like by orders of magnitude. So, yeah, it was very interesting.
Yeah, and honestly, I would love to get that readout that our scaled up sell actually is more profitable than the scaled down sell. But I am super excited about just getting any sort of clarity there. We've been doing this for so long, and we've basically erred on the side of aggression for a really long time, that generating that profit, in my opinion, could be going either way for us.
Yeah. I guess the other thing you would have to do is more of like a period over period, like, hey, we just scaled up by X% day over day. Are we seeing our first orders scale up like linear to that, or is it not linear to that? And because you don't need like, I think House is the best way to validate these things. But if you're an 8-figure brand, you're like, we don't have House yet, we're on 3 channels. Like you can do these things just like period over period, and just understanding like, all right, spend went up 40% from the previous period. That like first orders also go up 40% or to go up 20%, and like that's kind of uncovering the same thing that you're uncovering with House, is like, are we seeing diminishing returns on that spend? But now the tricky part is like, did you measure it for long enough? Did you let that ad spend mature for long enough? And it depends on like, if you're Hexclad, you got to do that for a longer period of time. If you're,
Right.
Selling a $60 AOV product, like you should probably see that almost instantaneous, like in a period over period manner.
So that was going to be my second point. So what do we care most at Ridge going into this Cyber 5 period? One, ideally we're running this 2-segment holdout to do a scaled up test. We can get the incremental ROAS on the additional spend. But then the second one is more what you're talking about, which is you're looking at things at a very granular level. You're not necessarily doing holdouts, right? So the other thing is we do, and I'm sure you guys are in a similar bucket, like we'll meet every 2 hours with the paid media team. And at certain times of the day, we'll use our hourly pacing and we'll say, hey, we're pacing 5% above target and we're pacing at our spend target. So let's spend 10% more. Now, if we spend 10% more, it's extremely important that 2 hours from now or 4 hours from now, we're making sure that we are now beating our projections by more than 5%.
Yep.
Because to all the points that we're making, it's very easy to be like, you just blend down your results. You're not actually driving incremental revenue in that period. And that's what you're talking about. Period over period, we'll be doing it on an hourly or like bi-hourly basis. And that's really where the focus is going to be to make sure that we are driving as much value as possible.
Yep. That's why I like having those like contribution margin flow charts, because I think it makes those, like, to your point, it's like, hey, we're at spend forecast, but we're, let's say 10% or 20% above rev, and like having a map where you have like revenue on one axis and efficiency on the other axis, and in the middle you have like contribution dollars, and of course you need to apply some like general assumptions about like costs, and then like, all right, let's say it's 30% non-marketing spend costs, and then we're subtracting out the ad spend. I think that's where those decisions become a lot easier when you can be confident in saying, hey, we're actually better to do 15 million in revenue at a 6x MER than we are to do 18 million in revenue at a 4.8x MER, like from a net, like bottom line contribution margin dollars. And I think that's the math you're always doing, is like, dang, should we push more aggressively here and be less efficient but do more revenue, or hold on, let's do less revenue, be more efficient? And like, that's what most brands should probably, I mean, blanket statement, but like that's what we optimize for, is not profit percent. It's total net dollars. Like we'd rather drop a few percentage points if we can, if we can grow our net dollars.
Where this gets even, like I 100% agree. Like I have a whiteboard. I wish I could show it, but I literally have a triangle of like our hierarchy of stuff, because like contribution margin, AMER, MER, revenue, but also inventory, right? So I don't know how much this is applying to you guys if you have anything limited edition, but you also have cash flow consideration. So it's like you're actually going beyond profitability and contribution margin. It's actually like, cash flow and balance sheet. So it's like, all right, well, am I actually willing to take a lower return on this because I want to move through this inventory that is limited edition, that is just literally going to be stuck on my balance sheet if I'm not able to move it?
Yeah.
And like we'll go as far as setting different, like our media buying approach changes. I want to talk about like bid caps here. I'm curious if you guys do any of it. So I can share our strategy and how we go about it. But we'll set like different bid cap targets based on what our demand plan team is telling us about, inventory. And we'll definitely take a different target on, a different campaign for a different one of our different collections. If it
that
means,
makes total sense.
So I think that's like a higher level thing. Yeah.
Yeah, so I'd love to talk a little bit more about what your ad account looks like. So you're saying more or less campaigns by product. So you might have a certain kit that's limited edition, and you will set different bid caps, what you're willing to pay for each order of this limited edition kit, depending on what inventory is.
Yeah, I'm pro consolidation as much as possible. So we still have like Black Friday, holiday stuff sprinkled through our main campaigns. We have one big ASC that has like all of our holiday stuff in it. But then we also have, I would say, honestly, the highest spend campaign lately is our bid cap campaign, and we'll have multiple ad sets in there, and those will have different targets there.
Got it.
And so that's where we'll split them up a little bit more, just based on either how we need to set a different target based on like an AOV, or just to back into a ROAS, or based on inventory. And so that's like our main lever to control that.
That makes total sense.
We're just like lowest cost. We don't really have any. We should talk about merchandising maybe in a little bit, because we are definitely like doing a lot of like merchandising updates throughout the sale, but we don't have that like seasonal product quite the way that you do, Cody, where it's like, if we don't sell through these, it's like we're not going to sell them again for the next year. So,
because, just to say this explicitly, Cody, what you're saying is you'll pay more for a customer buying your limited edition kit so you can move through it, so you don't get stuck with it. But if you guys are selling the standard Miracle Bomb that you're happy to hold that inventory in, you're setting that bid cap much lower.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. Because we want to be out of it. So, profitability is very important. But, if your target is a 1.5 on something and then you're like, hey, we got 50,000 extra of these. Well, all right, maybe I'll sacrifice a little bit, because there are cash flow considerations there as well. It's I can't imagine. We're really fortunate. We're very profitable and we have like really strong balance sheet. And I still like when we buy these things, for like these limited edition things, it's still super stressful and I lose sleep over it. And like, we're in a really fortunate cash flow position. I can't imagine I'm sure for some brands, it's like, they're making really, they're making purchases that they have to move their inventory or they're going to be. I just can't imagine how stressful that would be.
Can you imagine being like Last Crumb, like Last Crumb buying a perishable item, super seasonal.
Man.
They do like all the, the seasonal Christmas and Thanksgiving cookies, which are fantastic, by the way. Like I almost every year buy one to bring home to my family, but like that's got to be such a hard job and then so stressful.
God.
It's like, what do you do if you have 5,000 left over of these Thanksgiving cookie packs?
Totally. And I'm sure, I feel like those types of brands end up typically under ordering inventory, ensuring they'll sell through, ensuring that they're not getting stuck with a bunch of, out of season inventory. But because of that, they're like massively capped on their ability to grow. Just because it's like really hard to like find the optimal scenario where it's like, hey, we're buying enough so that we can scale aggressively, but not too much that we don't get stuck with any of this. It's like an impossible line to walk.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, demand planning is like so hard.
Yeah, totally. And that's why a brand like Ridgeway could be super aggressive is because we're gonna have these gunmetal wallets forever. So it's like, we could be hyper aggressive.
Yep. Same here. It's like, if we ordered 120% growth in eyes, but we only hit 90 or 100, it's like, okay, we're bummed because we want to hit our targets, but like we'll sell through that inventory in the next quarter. It's not not going to spoil.
When our holiday collection didn't do great last year, part of the feedback was like didn't feel holiday enough. So we did like the best creative we've ever done, like very custom packaging, like everything. The only negative of that is that you can't reuse that in the summer. You can't use it. I mean, you could do a bring back and stuff and like keep it live for a little bit longer into January. But yeah, otherwise it's pretty much just a write-off past a certain point.
Is this the kit that you guys launched last week?
Yeah.
I was actually going to say that it's like, it's very holiday looking without like the JR, like in the red box makes it very holiday, but you didn't veer to like putting like Christmas wreaths on it. Like I thought it was like a good balance of making it feel holiday, but it's still like 100% branded, like with Jones Road, which I thought was cool.
Yeah, try to hit our version. But even like the Miracle Bombs are coming in different stuff. They're coming in like clear packaging with silver, so that we think feels like. And again, you could sell it year round, but like that's what it feels like.
Black Friday, you're about to crush it. The real job is keeping that momentum going past Black Friday, past holiday, and all the way into next year. Prescient helps brands turn peak season wins into predictable, profitable velocity. Powered by a suite of proprietary machine learning models and a causality-first validation layer, Prescient reveals what actually drove lift. It combines surveys, it combines multi-touch attribution and incrementality, and then it forecasts where your next dollar of media will drive real incremental profit. Top brands like Coterie, Guess, Hexclad, Jones Road Beauty, Mary Ruth's, and many more are using Prescient to quantify halo effects across Shopify, Amazon, retail, so their teams know exactly where to reinvest. So what actual questions can Prescient help you answer? Let's dig into it a little bit. Question number 1, do I need to increase, decrease, or reallocate spend for the shopping season? Prescient shows the optimal media mix to drive the strongest Q4 performance, whether your budget grows or shrinks. Question number 2, where should I put additional Q4 budget? Prescient delivers recommendations based on current BFCM dynamics, your vertical, and your optimal ad spend allocation. Question number 3, can Prescient measure cross-channel effects, especially between Shopify and Amazon? Yes, Prescient uniquely tracks halo effects and ad impact across both platforms, revealing where to dial back and where to double down. This is actually one of the very first problems that Hexclad onboarded with Prescient to solve, is understanding the total impact across both .com and Amazon over ad spend. Prescient's models are benchmarked against $6 billion in ad spend, so the recommendations you are getting aren't just theory. They've actually been tested against billions of real media dollars. And if you're ready to see where your next dollar of media will drive the most profit, visit prescientai.com/operators to forecast your growth with Prescient.
Listen, enough demand planning. Let's talk media buying again on big caps. I'm a fan. I at least love it in theory. I think have your guys meta reps pitched you like the ABS strategy, which is like the bid cap strategy where you have like we've done it for years. It wasn't working for a while, but so it's essentially it used to be like inflated budget strategy or inflated bid, and it was IBS, and I was like, guys, you need to change that name. So I think it's ABS now. I don't know I think it's like an accelerated bid strategy. So it's essentially a really high budget, and it's not new. Like this has been around for a while. It's a really high budget bid cap campaign. You can set where it's like, I think we set it like $1 million a day, maybe even higher if like we think we're going to spend something close to that. And then you set your bid at, obviously what you're willing to pay. And what that does is it removes the pacing mechanism. So if there's like a lot of demand early in the morning on Black Friday or something like that, normally you'd be held out of a bunch of the auctions because you have to keep that budget that you have throughout the day. This one, because your budget's so high, there's no pacing mechanism. And so you can kind of go after any potential person that, the system thinks you can convert at that level. And then if you really want, because like if you're worried about overspending, because it does happen, you can set an ad set max limit that like you shouldn't spend just as like insurance. So we've done this, and I think it's supposed to be more for a peak period, which I love because like I remember on one Black Friday like 2 years ago, like I think we spent like almost $1 million, but like I'm not comfortable enough to go like, all right, lowest cost $1 million, let's just set it and forget it. Like I don't have the balls for that. So I really like this to capture more of the potential upside, be aggressive, but hopefully you're not spending if it performance isn't there. So I'm a fan. It works for us.
Do you guys run that strategy throughout November, or is it something that you'll kind of focus on just for the highest volume periods like Cyber 5?
No, we actually run it like pretty much evergreen now. I know it's not intended to be that way. It just works for whatever reason. It's our highest spend campaign and it's our most efficient. I don't know. Maybe it's, some of the mechanism. So I know it's not the intended, but it works for us. I'm not like dogmatic about big caps. Most of our campaigns are on low cost, but it works for us, and I like it. But there's some things you got to look out for, like when conversion rates fluctuate. Like I did this one year when we were first getting to big caps. Your conversion rate will go way down, like Tuesday, right, or even Monday, Tuesday. Well, like Meta doesn't know that it's going to go down, and so it's going to bid based on what your previous few day conversion rate was, and so you can overspend very significantly and like come in way above your target CPA. And so what we'll do is we just have to like get ahead of that and like aggressively bring bids down when we know conversion rate's going to drop. But then vice versa, like if the last few days you had a 3% conversion rate and now you're going to have a 7% conversion rate because it's like day one of the sale, we'll actually like overcorrect and actually like bid significantly higher for like a day or two.
Yeah, that's interesting. Google has, and this is a good tip for Cyber 5 week, because I just think it's best practice to put in place. But Google has seasonal bid adjustments. So you can actually tell the Google Ads platform, hey, we want to bid 40% higher on the day of Black Friday to do exactly what you're describing, Cody. We know conversion rate's going to go up. Let's adjust our bids ahead of time. Yeah. But you can actually like schedule it out in Google.
Question about like, so Connor, I think you have a note in here about like different channels, right? I'm curious like how you guys think about budget increases across various channels. Because some of them are super programmatic, machine learning based, where like you can just set a bid and it's like, hey, I'll set budget really high, and you could probably get I think you guys were saying like a 70% day over day increase or something like that of spend. And then some of them, right, are much more traditional. You can't do that for an out of home. You can't really do that for TV. Like, how does your media mix evolve? Like based on that, and are you spending as you increase budgets going into peak? Is it concentrated in a few channels?
Ours is, and then we also, the way that we have our media, we break out our media mix by period in the last 60 days of the year. So like we'll have a different mix when we launch on Friday than we have for the first 14 days of the month, right? Like we'll heavy up in Meta, we'll heavy up in search, we'll heavy up in our more middle, bottom of funnel, last click channels. and then yes, we're not doing like, if we're going to go from, if we're going to add $300,000 of spend or whatever from Thursday to Friday, because that's when our sale launches, it's not like a linear, hey, let's just take the increase in spend and multiply it by the total mix and put that everywhere. We're doing a little bit more manual manipulation at that point in the year. Where it's like, all right, we might move Meta up, more percentage points, and Google up more percentage points than we move up streaming TV, which is like both us just manually manipulating it and because our media mix is changing. For the most part, though, like our vendors, they know, like any vendor that's doing the media buying for us that's not internal. So like CTV, which like we have a managed service for that, linear TV, out of home's its own separate thing. That's like, we're not looking at it the way that we look at all these other channels. They know our daily budgets. Like they've seen them, they're in hand, they've had them for a few weeks at this point. So they're very buttoned up on, hey, on the 14th, like we're moving our CTV budgets from X to Y. And then we're just checking in at the end of the day to make sure that there weren't any discrepancies there. So like we've just gotten ahead of it enough where they know how we're going to pace. And then if we have any changes, because like you said, Connor, we'll meet with our media buying team like daily or every other day and kind of just run through like, how do our benchmark, like our click-based benchmarks look, or how do our click-based metrics look against benchmark as well as year over year? And then we might do some more manual manipulation, and then we'll just like adjust the spreadsheet that every vendor has, and they'll see that. So like we just have all of our daily budgets in a single sheet and share that with internal and external partners. And like we've found pretty good just like pacing success because of that.
Yeah, we're very similar. The non-programmatic channels like a linear or an out of home or something are naturally in this period as we scale going to become a smaller percentage of budget.
Yeah.
Like if we're able to spend, we've actually seen a ton of success recently on linear TV. And let's say it's 6 or 7% of total budget right now. There's just no way we can commit to maintaining that percentage of budget while we scale budgets 400% or whatever, right? So it's like, naturally, we are increasing budgets, but as a percentage of total, it's actually going to be probably half of what we were at in October. And that's just like, I mean, even from like a payment perspective, we have net 30 payments with a handful of networks on linear TV, but like the idea of prepaying for hundreds of thousands of dollars of spend in a given week just doesn't make sense. So it's like that sort of channel is naturally at a disadvantage versus everything else. So we err on the side of these like easy to adjust channels. Like influencer, linear, out of home, I'd put in all of those buckets. Then what we'll be looking at, week of Cyber 5, I mentioned the house tests that we'll have going on our two biggest channels. We expect that to be YouTube and Meta. So we'll get those readouts going into the week and adjust budgets accordingly. That's the most scientific adjustment we're going to do. And then it's exactly what Connor described, where we'll be looking on an MTA basis. Where are we relative to benchmarks? And then, depending on what we're seeing, kind of reallocating from there on a, maybe daily basis or so.
How do you think about it, Cody?
Yeah, definitely similar. Right. Like, let's say we wanted, I'm just making up a number, Meta to be, 60% of our mix for November. Like, we're probably 80% for the Black Friday sale period. I do think we have some more channels now. Like, I think AppLove, and if it performs, that can scale. If you have performance there, again, I don't know the cap and incrementality, but like at least that is more similar to like the modeling behind it. YouTube can. I don't know. I don't find YouTube can scale like as rapidly. It's like somewhere in between like a Meta and a TV, I feel like.
Are you talking specifically like day over day? Because I would agree with that a lot. Yeah.
Yeah, like you can scale it and you can definitely increase it more than you can at TV, of course. But like we can go from spending $50K a day on Meta to $750K.
Totally.
And you can YouTube. You could probably go from $10K a day to $30K a day, maybe. And that feels like a big one. So usually when we change YouTube, it's like twice a week and it's like, let's set it and hold it. Something like a TikTok, I don't know if you guys are spending, like we're spending so little there that even if we triple budget on TikTok, it's still like pretty meaningless in the grand scheme of things. So that's why Meta is just like by far the biggest lever here. And then, everything else is like podcast, TV, influencer, linear. It's just, I completely agree with you. We will think about increasing them like as much as we can, especially for like continuing to keep funnel full and stuff like that. So Meta doesn't become like 90%, but you just don't have the same liquidity in it.
We had, last year we struggled with Meta a lot, and I've talked about this quite a bit, and we're luckily seeing much better success so far into the period. But yeah, I mean, Meta was like, I think it got down last week of Cyber 5 to like, I think 50% of our total budget, 40% of our total budget, which is just to say that shows how much we had to scale. It was like Snapchat, AppLovin, and YouTube. We spent a ton of money on, and they scaled pretty decently last year. We ended up hitting all the results that we needed to. It was just kind of ugly along the way. But yeah, there's just linear TV was never a part of that discussion. We were never like, let's double the linear TV budget to make up for, a poor performing Meta.
Yeah.
You could do the Shopify and just like buy the Sphere that day. Like,
yeah, totally.
There we go. Yeah, I'm looking at our like daily pace right now. Like when we go from Wednesday to Thursday, so like from the day before Thanksgiving into Thanksgiving, like we're tripling Meta budgets, but we are only increasing other channels by like AppLovin, for example. Like we're definitely scaling it, but it's only going up by like not even 2x. It's like 1.85x. So like definitely not a proportionate amount of scale. And then like we also have like the percent mix by channel too, which is kind of interesting because you can see Meta goes from like 40 to 50% leading into this period, and then it's like cranked up to 60%. And then like AppLovin also is a larger percent because we see a lot of like last click there, and then you'll see some of the other channels that are more like demand gen going down in percent and not scaling as aggressively.
So I remember like right around Christmas time when most people normal people were like off, taking their time, chilling with family. I was like looking through our P&L, our budget for next year, and I was like, how are we going to save money? And one of the things I did is I leaned on a lot of our partners, and I remember slacking Amit from Rich Panel, and I was like, what can you do? How can you help us? We had just switched to Rich Panel a few months before, went really well. And I told him jokingly, by the way, I want to throw it out there jokingly, that if he could help cut about $500K from our customer service costs, I'd get a Rich Panel tattoo. Well, we did that. You've probably seen a tweet. He did some AI thing of me with a neck tattoo. I'm not going to do it. Sorry, Amit, but I will talk about how much I love Rich Panel, how much Amit has helped us. So we had 18 support agents before. It was a lot, and it just was not scalable. We had so many people. We had this like old legacy software. It was slow, it was broken, it was expensive, and it just took too many people to operate. So we not only made the switch, but Amit and his team really helped us. Now we have 8 people, and we have a much better CSAT score. Our numbers are way better. Our response times are way quicker. We're leveraging a lot of automation, a lot of AI, but again, it has not hurt customer experience. We track, and I get a weekly report of our CSAT, of all of our stuff, of our NPS, and it's going up because we're actually able to get back to people, give people better answers. The automation learns from our best agents, so it just continually is getting better. We switched to Rich Panel about 2 weeks before Black Friday. Might be a crazy thing to do, but it was super easy. We came out of Black Friday for the first time in 3 years with no ticket backlog. The software and support has blown us away. I highly recommend you switch. If you do it and they save you a lot of money, you should probably get a tattoo, but it's not something my wife would let me get away with. But yeah, if you're running an e-commerce brand, I highly recommend you switch to Rich Panel. You'll be able to leverage their software, save money on software costs, which is great, while saving a significant amount of money on personnel costs. So if you want to go into Q4 with a leaner, smarter support setup and come out of there without this crazy ticket backlog and just make your CX team happier, go to richpanel.com/demo. Tell them Cody from Marketing Operators sent you, and tell them you're ready to get a tattoo.
So you have a channel spend forecast for AppLovin for Black Friday right now?
Yeah.
Do you guys have that, Cody? We don't have that.
Yeah, we do. I think the percentage is like, we kind of just do it on the fly. Like we have a daily total spend based on our forecast and then a daily split. But like when I set the media mix for a month, like I'm just putting, just to keep it easier, like, hey, Meta's going to be 60% for the month. And then we just kind of like manually adjust and work around that to know like, hey, we're okay with less right now because we know it's going to be higher. I don't have it like in the cells as a different, if that makes sense. But we'll talk about it. Like a weekly stand-up, we'll be like, hey, what channels do we want to push on? What do we want to pull on right now?
Totally. Yeah, we do. Okay, so we have monthly, obviously, monthly total spend forecast. We have a monthly channel forecast as well. You could theoretically make that a daily forecast, but we don't have that like documented anywhere. And then we typically do it on a weekly basis. The Friday before, we'll set channel budgets for the following week. And then during the week of Cyber 5, we'll be talking about it every single day and like resetting the forecast. Hey, AppLovin looks really good, so we're going to scale into that Wednesday more than we will a, X or something.
Yeah, and this is just your starting point. Like we'll have that meeting and be like, wow, AppLovin's 40% higher click-based ROAS than we thought. Like, hey, we had 20K planned there for the day and like throughout the week, but should we actually crank that to 30K, and then it's all a zero sum game because we're still making sure we're spending to budget for the most part. So it's like, all right, like, does Meta look worse than we expected? Great, that's an easy swap. Let's put 10K into AppLovin and take 10K out of Meta, and like have this kind of dynamic like workflow and process going on that just keeps going until you're done with the season.
Let me ask another quick question. Do you guys what do you think is a reasonable margin of error? If you tell your team, I want to spend $200,000 tomorrow and it comes in at 208, are you like, yeah, that's kind of par for the course?
Yeah. Oh God. Yeah, totally.
Okay. Then what is the margin? What's a comfortable margin of error for you? What if they tell you tomorrow that they spent 230 instead of 200? They're 15% above target.
I'm not that worried about that. Honestly, like, we're going to spend mid 8 figures in the whole period here. So like, if we start to creep into like, hey, we just misspend by 50K, let's say, all right, like, let's have a chat about what's going on here. Like 20K, you can kind of make that up in a day or two, but like 50K plus, you start getting close to like, we had a channel last year that overspent by 200K on one day. I was like, like, we had a chat with that vendor.
A day?
Like, yeah. Like that guy, we're like, guys, this just can't happen.
It's got to be so hard to be such a big brand.
That was like, I'm like, what's going on here? Like,
what was that? Like 2% of your mix for the day?
That was, I'm trying to remember what day that happened on. It was a pretty big percent. It was a pretty big percent.
What about you, Cody?
To me, it's all relative to, it's all variable. So it's all about, performance. And so it's just like, hey, did we hit our contribution margin targets? Did we hit our...
If you hit your revenue target, and then what margin of error will you have around spend? So it's like, if you overspent, you missed it's directly coming out of your contribution target.
Got it. So like, assuming I think in my mind, I'm assuming that the revenue target is not fixed and like all of our spend is incremental. Maybe it's like a wish list. So I'm like, hey, if we're if we're trying to spend 200 to make $1 million and we spent 250 to make 1.1, like that's good. You know what I mean? So it's kind of like that.
No, I'm talking about literally like inarguably missing your contribution and profit target because channels overspent. It doesn't feel reasonable to be like, we said 200K and I wanted to be 200K on the dot. Like the channels are hard. We just had Meta overspend slightly this week. Yeah, totally. So I'm curious your guys' take. Like, at what point are you like, hey team, we got to be more dialed in than this?
I'd say 20% if I had to say. Like, I've seen that before and have given like TV teams feedback.
Cool.
Of linear. And because you are bidding on linear, and right, they have to get accepted depending on the market.
Yeah, linear is a tricky one.
But I think there's times where I'm like, guys, I think we're overspending, and like I'm not happy with the delta there. And then I think that's another one, as we were talking with Meta budgets and setting them, is just like, all right, let's all be aligned going into it. If we are going to miss based on overall softness we're seeing, I would prefer for us to miss under right now.
Yeah,
for sure.
So it's also the direction too. It's actually not the amount, but it's also direction.
Yeah. Yeah, we had this over the weekend where we overspent on Meta one day by like 30K. And like, we had a monster revenue weekend. So it was like, okay, that's like, and the in-platform stuff looked great. So I'm like, all right, not a huge deal. But the first question, especially for the channels we're managing, is what was the account set to? Like, was it set to 30K over?
Right.
Because that's a human mistake. Was it set to the budget and Meta just overspent? And like, that's exactly what happened. I think of the flexible, like Cody, we were texting about the flexible ad stuff, like that overspent over the weekend. And it was like, okay, like that was not your fault at all.
Totally.
So that's the first question, is like, oh, we overspent by 50K, but like it was still set to the budget. So like, that's out of our control. And that's when we'll go to the Meta reps and say, depending on the performance, right? Like, hey, we think we owe some credit here, or some like money back or whatever it is, because you guys overspent in our account.
And it's also like, hey, we overspent, we came in less efficient than we wanted, but we chatted about it throughout the day, and we made a conscious decision that like we wanted to see if performance would pick up, or like we were okay to keep budgets high, because we have, ROAS lift. Like, that's how I look at it. But yeah, I had our influencer agency ask me like a week ago, like, hey, look for the month, it looks like we're going to come in like 3K above budget. Like, is that okay? And I'm like, yeah, like that's inconsequential. Like,
totally. It really comes down to the paid media stuff for me, where I think for me, it's like, if we are hitting our revenue target, but spend is coming in over 10%, that's the max margin of error I have. That if we're coming in 15% over, and because also this is under the assumption we've been talking every single day, multiple times a day. Like the example is we spent like 180 the other day. The plan was we're going to spend 180. We came in exactly at our revenue target. We ended up spending just under 190. So we were at That's 5%. Yeah, that's fine. And it was exactly what you guys were describing early, the like flexible budgets on Meta, just like spent a little bit more than we were otherwise anticipating. That totally within the margin of error. Otherwise, it's you get to the point where people just aren't adding up all the campaign budgets that they've set and they're not operating as dialed in as they need to be.
But what time period? Because with the flexible budget stuff, like Meta can go, I don't know if it's 25% or 50%. Like you might have a day where you're like significantly underspending or over because Meta is just kind of like, hey, we don't think it's the best time to spend for you right now. Maybe they're right, maybe they're wrong. Are you saying like you'd rather override that and you'd rather like make sure you hit your budget targets for that day? There's a difference between like your team just not setting the right starting budgets and wanting to spend 100K and they just like didn't calculate it, or setting 100K and then Meta's like, actually, I'm going to spend 80 today and I'm going to save 20% for the next 2 days.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, look, I guess it can kind of shift throughout the week, and it depends on where the overspend came from. If we have our entire Meta budget on flexible, if we have our entire Meta account across all categories on flexible budgets, then we could theoretically, the entire Meta campaign could overspend 20%. If that's 60% of the budget, then we're talking about that could explain 12% of an overspend. So it's still, you still get pretty close to my margin of error, I think. There's very few scenarios where because of flexible budgets or because some sort of platform setting, everything is set correctly, but the platform overspends by over 10% is actually like extremely uncommon, I think.
What's the worst you've had?
Oh, dude, we've got some horror stories. Of like, I remember once we had a pixel issue. We were doing something this was years ago, on Google, where we had big budgets, target CPAs, kind of like what Cody was describing earlier, where we were spending only a fraction of our total budget every single day. We changed a pixel on the site. So Google quickly started thinking that like add to carts were purchases or something. So CPA drops and then we just start maxing out the budgets. And then Google will happily spend another 20% of our budget or whatever. So that was really bad one year.
Oof, that's tough.
Yeah, I think like that's one, right? Talking about bid caps, if like for some reason we're doing the ABS strategy and like we're spending way more and we're not finding performance, like, yes, that's not my media buyer's fault. Like Meta's overspending and making a bet that it's not panning out. But we do have to be on it. If we know our budgets are that high, we have to know the probability of it. And then like we have to catch it.
Yep.
So it's more about like what are the actions we take and did we do it?
All right, listeners, let's talk about the next couple months. Holiday spending is naturally going to slow down, but sales volume can still remain high as you get through shipping cutoffs, as you get into the new year, and as you crush your Q1 targets. One of our focuses at Ridge will be squeezing more revenue from every customer that we've been acquiring for so long, and that is where Aftersell by Rokt comes in. It's the one-click post-purchase upsell platform trusted by over 40,000 D2C brands, and here's how it works. When someone just bought from you, they're already in buying mode. They trust you, their card's on file. All you do is show them the right offer at the right time with zero friction. No re-entering payment info, no extra pages, just yes, add this, and boom, done. Brands are seeing up to 30% AOV lifts, and when you're running volume during the holidays or into 2026, that can compound fast. And look, Jones Road, Ridge, True Classic, Hexclad, we're not running Aftersell because it's trendy. We're running it because the unit economics work and the data is undeniable. But here's the kicker. Beyond the AOV boost, Aftersell unlocks Rokt monetization suite, pure profit with zero work. Rokt Thanks on your thank you page, 30 to 50 cents in pure profit per order. Rokt Pay Plus, another 20 to 25 cents per order, no impact on conversion. It's found money. So here's what you do. Go to aftersell.com/operators right now, activate Rokt Thanks or Rokt Pay Plus and get the full Aftersell suite for free. Run it, check your numbers, then you can come back and tell us if you want to turn it off, but I already know what you're going to say.
I'm curious, how do you guys approach scaling your like mid-funnel campaigns? Like Connor, I don't know if this is still true, but I remember a few months back, you're like, hey, we found best performance 40% of our Meta account on view content. Do you try to keep any proportion like that you found? Do you scale up those kind of relative to each other or not?
Well, one of the like telltale signs that Meta really wasn't working for us the way that we wanted it to was last November. One of our highest ROAS campaigns on an MTA basis was a view content optimized campaign. I'm like, okay, yeah, something super weird here. So that's how we kind of got down that rabbit hole this year of like, how do we set that as a percentage of budget? Because we found those campaigns to be very incremental. So we have right now on today, 10% of our meta budget will be going to view content optimized campaigns. That's roughly the target we're going to hold ourselves to. We've tested it at different percentages of total mix, and that's actually a little bit under our target just because we think we can get a lot more juice out of the purchase optimized stuff. And then it'll become a smaller percentage. Hopefully it becomes a smaller percentage the week of Cyber 5, just because everything else should be working much better.
Yeah, we're definitely scaling it down, Cody. And that's honestly following the holdout test we ran, because we ran a really big holdout test, and you do reads throughout the test, and then you do a read at the end after the observation window. And like, we just saw a massive drop in the CPIA when obviously as we did the observation window through a sale period. So like we use that trend to say, okay, we're gonna have the percent of our meta budget in view content be higher in view content leading into the sale, and then bring it down during the sale, and then bring it back up when we're out of sale. So we're always moving it up and down based on if we're in an evergreen period or a sale period.
Yeah, it's kind of similar to like the TV stuff. Like I don't think it's going to scale as much. We're not going to like triple our view content, but we try to be mindful of it and try to just like keep the overall reach, positive and growing in the right direction. So even as we're scaling budgets more incrementally going like throughout November, we're just trying to keep an eye on what percentage of our account is going to kind of, mid funnel versus purchase.
So I want to bring it kind of full circle. So Connor, how are you like tactically getting your pace updated? Like, is that a Northbeam thing? Do you have a separate way of like every X minutes or every X hours you're pulling in your spend per hour per channel, so you can understand like, hey, we're looking good against pace, we're under, we're over. Like, what is that I know we talked about the revenue. You're pulling that into a sheet by hour. What's that like tactically look like? Tactically and technically, I guess, for your ad spend.
Yeah, same process. We we talk about this all the time, but on a daily basis at Ridge, we are managing the business in many ways off of MER, AMER with our like centralized data warehouse. That's the source of truth. Then we're looking at Northbeam to look at like really bottoms up at a user level. Who's clicking through? What are CPCs? What are people converting at? What are ROAS relative to benchmarks? What that becomes during the Cyber 5 week is all hourly revenue and all hourly spend is going into a spreadsheet. So we're calculating hourly MERs and then that accrual MER throughout the day. And that just tells us like the general health of the business. In the same way that MER yesterday or month to date is really important, we are looking at hourly and, today to the past hour. Then when it comes to like figuring out what's working, what's not, we're using Northbeam for that. So we're moving away from Supermetrics ultimately, but like I've been at Ridge for almost 9 years, and so much of our business is built on like Supermetrics automations, and it's really good. You can plug in 90% of the accounts that you need, and you're getting really quick hourly updates from the API. You're pasting in whatever Amazon revenue that you need because Supermetrics doesn't connect to Amazon, or it doesn't on an hourly basis. And it's like we're putting together that reporting that way.
Got it. Cody, how about you? What's your like methodology for checking in on pace on ad spend?
So we have a data warehouse. We don't use Supermetrics, but for daily stuff, we have our forecast in a Google sheet, and our data warehouse pipes that in because we used to use Funnel and it kind of broke it. We have a dashboard that we use that updates automatically. They're not a sponsor. It's not Northbeam. We do Northbeam for Intraday, but for our like blended MER, AMER pacing, we use something else, but they're not a sponsor, so I'm not going to give them any free love.
Wow. Principled.
Tough. Yeah.
Principled. I'll give free love for merch, but that's about it.
That's funny. Let me ask one more question. I know we're wrapping up here in a second. What do you guys do personally this time? So you got Thanksgiving, you're hanging out with the family. Friday, does the non-marketing team have the day off? Are they working? Like, what is that? Cody, I'll start with you. What does that look like for you?
Yeah, I have two questions. Yeah, I'm curious if you guys do blackout dates. We do. I never reject PTO through the year. Like, I've never done it. I literally just rejected 3 this morning and like felt like an asshole about it. But I'm like, this is also the period where if you're in growth, if you're in creative. So it really depends on the position. Like if my product development team wants to take off, like they have nothing to do with this period of time.
Totally.
Like they've worked hard throughout the year, like do it. If you're on CX and you're on the growth or you're on the growth team, like, our copywriter has a few days off, right? Because like if we have to make a pivot, there's somebody else that can write copy. But if you're a media buyer, like you're not taking off. So we have blackout dates. Obviously people are with family and with travel. But like the growth team, even an evergreen during a weekend is like, we are in Slack looking at budgets. It's just the nature of the job. So it just depends on the function and the role. But we have blackout dates. We really try to limit the PTO right before the sale and during it. And then really once December hits, it's much more liberal. That being said, I think what we'll do is probably like once we get into like the weekend, do like a daily stand-up. So I'm curious what you guys do, how you approach, because we've always done just async, but I think it might be more efficient to just do like a daily stand-up once like Friday starts or something like that, just with growth team.
Yeah. We'll do a daily stand-up. We start that next Monday, actually, with myself, our director of paid media, London, and then 2 folks from our finance department to talk about how we're pacing. And then we'll do like, we don't have these scheduled yet, every other day or every day media buyer syncs to like adjust budgets on the actual like Thursday through Sunday period. I tell the team, I'm like, you shouldn't be working, like you don't need to, nor should you be working full days. Like you need do the work you need to do to execute on the moment that we're in right now. If that takes you an hour, great. If that takes you 3 hours, great. So it's like, obviously everyone in paid is going to be spending 30 minutes here and there, adjusting budgets throughout the day, having some conversation. Same with like the retention team. They're going to be like scheduling campaigns, making sure everything goes out. But like if you're in CRO or like influencer or like affiliate, like you don't really need to be doing much. Like most of your work's led into that. And it's like, great, like go take that period off, be with your family, get refreshed and recharged. And like, I'm not working, like I'm more so checking in throughout the day. I'm probably working, 2 to 3 hours a day during that weekend. And sometimes less, sometimes more, depending on how good or poorly things are going. And then, a lot of group chats going on with, me and London and Jason and our paid social media buyer during that weekend as well.
Yeah, I think it's good. That was the point that I was going to make is like, it is a weird time. Again, we do like Thursday, we'll meet a couple times. That's really just with the paid media team. For the first meeting of the day, we'll have retention. We'll make sure we're all on board there, but they don't have a lot of like hourly adjustments to be making. Yeah. But then you enter this weird period of time where it's extremely high volume. I end up like, I am the worst and I'm refreshing revenue like every 15 minutes or whatever, right? And then I'm like, all right, we're 15 minutes in. If we like extrapolate that out for another 45 minutes, we'll grow 10% this hour, like just way more granular than I need to be. But there's frankly not, at times, not all that much other work to be getting done. So like last year, I was getting workouts in during the day, like in between paid media syncs, and then just trying to make the work as impactful as possible.
I could just envision you trying to like stay loose. You're like warming up and like biking and staying loose between your growth stand-ups.
Yeah. That's basically it. Do you guys end up having dreams about marketing during Q4? I had my first one the other day that I was having
I used to at Homestead. When I was at Homestead, it was pretty bad. Like I would dream about work, wake up, go to work, go to bed, dream about it. Like, I don't know. I figured out along the way how to avoid doing that. So not really, not anymore.
Last year, one of my favorite dreams, I had a dream I was in a spreadsheet. It was very, like, it was very surreal.
Like physically?
I was like, the physical space around me was a spreadsheet. I was like in the cells.
That's when you wake up. That's when you wake up and you go book a vacation, and you're just like, I need a vacation. I got to get out of this.
Last year was really taxing. Yeah, and that dream is the best example. Case in point.
My wife's birthday is this December 2nd, so I think that's Cyber Monday the first this year. Yeah, so it's like we're going on a vacation literally on the 3rd or 4th.
Nice.
Like, much needed.
That's cool. Awesome. Dream of in a spreadsheet. That's great. Well, cool. Should we wrap there?
Yeah, we should wrap. And for those still listening, an hour in, we wish you a profitable, scalable Cyber 5 weekend.
All right. That's a wrap on episode 87 of the Marketing Operators Podcast. Had a great in-depth episode today on how we think about intraday pacing on revenue, ad spend, and efficiency KPIs as we're in our peak moments to make sure that we are pacing towards targets, both on the revenue and the ad spend side of things. Thank you to our sponsors, Motion, Prescient, Rich Panel, Aftersell, and House. If you're enjoying the show, make sure to like, subscribe, comment, and share with your marketing friends. Thanks.